You think we're ready to start?
Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Can you see me? Yes, okay. I'll give a brief introduction to Meredith. We're excited to have Meredith Paige teach us how to make two traditional Jewish favorites, Rugala and Babka, in our first fundraising virtual session of the year. Meredith honed her baking skills here in Winston-Salem under the guidance of her mother, Fran Paige, and we hope you've had a chance to try her delicious treats. When Meredith is not baking, she is a preschool speech language pathologist and a Temple Emanuel religious school teacher. We thank Meredith for her hard work, her time, and her delicious baked goods. I also want to thank Karen and Tom Pranikoff for sponsoring the event, Ben Breakstone for his continuous support, Lynn Siegel and the fundraising committee, and everyone on the call for participation in our virtual fundraising event. Thank you so much. And now I'll turn it over to Meredith.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. I hope the baked goods stayed fresh for you to taste. And we're going to get started making rugala. So the first thing, if you're going to be baking along, go ahead and grab your ingredients. Right now, you'll just need the ingredients for the dough, which is kosher salt, flour, 2 sticks of butter at room temperature or softened in the microwave, and a package of cream cheese. So I'm going to be putting the butter and the cream cheese in the mixer. You can do it by hand or with a handheld mixer as well. I have a stand mixer, which efficient, a little bit lazy, but efficient. And also a package of cream cheese. And if anybody has questions along the way, feel free to unmute yourself and chime in, or you can drop it in the chat and I'll check that every so often. So after you have both the cream cheese and the butter in a bowl, if you are using a stand mixer, you're going to cream it together for about 4 to 5 minutes until it's smooth. And it's going to be on low to medium speed. So it may make a little bit of noise, but I'll be back in a second. The best attachment to use if you're using a stand mixer is a paddle attachment. This one has a scraper on the end, but I also have the standard one, just like this. Most of the stand mixers come with. So if you can hear me, the rugala and the babka are both a choose your own adventure. You can choose whatever filling that you want to put inside. The dough, it will be the same for anything that you want to make, whether it's sweet or savory. I choose chocolate. I don't know if you can tell by all of the chocolate in the box, but my family is a chocolate family. I don't know if you can see that, but that's pretty much how creamy it should be. The softer your butter and cream cheese is, the quicker it'll be to cream it together. Mine's been sitting on the counter for a little while, so it was room temperature. The next thing you're going to do is add in a pinch of kosher salt and 2 cups of flour. And I usually do the cups of flour while it's mixing on low speed. You'll start to be able to see it clump together in a ball. It'll be soft, it won't be very floury, but we're gonna add more flour to our surface before we roll it out, so it won't stick. Perfect. If you are baking along, the next step is to get a pan ready with some parchment paper, a rolling pin. You'll need a knife to cut. And depending, I'll show you both ways, depending on how you want to cut it, you can do a circle and roll it up like a crescent, like a triangle, and you roll it up, or I have an easy hack where you roll it into a log and you cut triangles, which is the shape that I did in the boxes that were given to you. You're going to, you can roll on parchment paper. If your parchment paper starts to slip, you can put a towel underneath. You may get a little bit of texture from your dish towel, but it'll keep it from slipping around. And you can also do it just right on the pan on the parchment paper. We're going to be putting this in the fridge right afterwards. And so you can layer as many as you want in between parchment paper on top, and then you just have one pan in the fridge. Again, feel free if you have any questions as I'm rolling and chatting, feel free to interrupt me and ask. There are no rules when it comes to how you want to shape or what size you want to make them. I like, if I do the rectangular shape, which is the way that I'm going to show you first, I like to just make sure that they're all even. So when I make a batch, they're all about the same size, but how big you make the circle, how big you make the rectangle is just going to determine how big your rugelach are going to be. So you're going to roll it out. And you want it pretty thin because you're going to be rolling it over top of each other. My easy hack for that is to use 2 skewers or 2 chopsticks. You can put them right underneath the rolling pin and it'll get you an even length all the way around. All right, so when you have some laid out, this way, you'll just cut a rectangle.
Meredith, can you repeat, what do the chopsticks do, or the skewers do?
If you place the skewers or chopsticks on either side of the rolling pin, it'll create an even width of the dough. So you get the same width if you roll like this sheet out, and then you take another ball of dough and roll another ball of dough out. It'll be the same width or depth, thickness.
Thank you.
And they make rolling pins that have circles on the ends, but I like the chopstick skewer way. So it should be pretty thin. You can pick it up. Should be pretty thin. And then this is going to go in the fridge. So I'm going to move it onto another piece of parchment paper just for now. And I'm going to roll out a circle so I can show you how to roll both. And you can just eyeball a circle, or you can take a bowl or a plate. So you have a big enough area rolled out where you think you can make a circle. See if I have a bowl that size. Let me just cut right around it. Well, that's about right. Use the knife and go all the way around. Doesn't have to be perfect. And you get a circle. So then I'm just going to take this sheet that has the circle on it, and I'm going to put it right on top of the rectangle that I cut out. And you can layer as many as you can. Make a couple batches. And I'm just going to put a piece of parchment paper on top, and I'm going to put it in the fridge. And the fridge is only really to help once you put the filling in to help cut. The colder it is, the easier it is to cut, and the filling won't come out. So if you want to put it in and walk away, I usually do about an hour, but really until it gets just a little bit chilled, is all you need. Space in here. So while that is in the fridge, I usually make the filling if you're going to hand make it on your own, or you can get the supplies ready of what you're going to use. I use Nutella for the ones that I baked for the boxes, for the samples, but I usually use a Parov Israeli chocolate. I can send the link out or put it in the chat later if anybody's curious. Publix used to carry it. They may carry it on and off, but I ordered 6 tubs from Amazon, which was the cheapest and easiest way to get it. It's Parov, so the Rugloff you can't really make Parov because it's cream cheese, and I haven't tried to make it with a non-dairy cream cheese. Not sure how it would come out, but the Babka I do make Parov often. You can use Earth Balance non-dairy butter. Looks like this. This is just the logo on there if anybody's curious. The Earth Balance butter. I use the Parov Israeli chocolate. And then at any of the grocery stores, you can find allergen-free vegan chocolate chips. And then you make a bar of babka. So the filling's pretty much done, ready to go. The next thing that you'll need is to make an egg wash for the top, which is, I usually do 2 egg yolks, 1 whole egg, and then a pinch of salt. So I already have it ready to go in a little container. It's been in the fridge. And I'm going to show you now how to roll and cut and braid a babka while we wait for the rugelach to cool down a little bit so we can cut it. Does anybody have any questions? Will I get my babka dough?
This is Debbie Jones. I was just wondering, do you sift the flour at all, or is it just regular flour unsifted?
Just regular flour unsifted. And for the babka, the same. And you know, there are tons of different babka. Rugelach pretty much stays the same, the recipe, at least for the dough, is pretty much similar between a lot of them that I've looked at. Babka, there are tons of different recipes. If you like one that's more like bread, Bread's babka makes their babka with a challah dough. And then there's like Zabar's, which is ooey and gooey and less like a bread and more like a cakey. So, and I know the bread calls for bread flour. So it really all depends on, you know, the type of recipe that you picked out. For this babka recipe, it's really fun and easy. What you do is you take all of the dough ingredients, you put it in a bag, and you squish it together, which makes for a very fun activity if you have kids or grandkids that want to participate. I like it. I'm an adult and I like to squish it in a bag. So you're gonna take all of the dough out, put it on a floured surface. It'll be kind of clumpy when it's in a bag. If you don't want to use a bag, you can pop it right into the stand mixer or mix it by hand. Put a little bit of flour on my surface, just to keep it from sticking. Now, the reason I'm not showing you how to do the babka from start to finish is because after you put all of the ingredients in the bag and you squish it all together and mix it, you put the bag into a bowl of warm water. That's what my bowl was for earlier. And you let it rise for about 40 minutes. If you are not putting it in, if you don't use the bag method and use the stand mixer or mix it by hand, you can leave it in a warm place on the countertop for 40 minutes. You have a fancy oven, you can use a proofing setting. I usually just turn the oven on to like 350 and sit on top. It gets warm from underneath and does the job. So after you get it floured, you're gonna roll it out. It doesn't need to be perfect. Doesn't have to be a certain thickness. You just wanna make roughly a square. So I think that's about good. Doesn't have to be perfect. The next thing we do is we fill it. So just gonna rinse my hands off. I use an offset spatula to spread my filling. You can use a large spoon, a knife, a regular spatula, like this one. really anything will get the job done. And I know on the recipes, there's measurements. If you like a little chocolate, put a little bit of chocolate. If you like a lot of chocolate, put a lot of chocolate. Or nuts or fruit filling or Nutella. I've made the Bialy Babka that's on the recipe that was given to you. Takes longer because you have to cook the onions down, but really good.
Meredith, when you make the Bialy filling, do you put the vanilla in the dough?
I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
What about the sugar?
The sugar's in there. I borrowed the recipe from somebody and I changed it a little bit to match my babka recipe. And so I'm happy to send out the original Bialy babka recipe with her dough, if anybody is curious on how she makes it. Can't remember her name off the top of my head, but I have her recipe close by. I can look in a little bit. I believe the vanilla is the only thing that I leave out.
Hi, just a quick question.
Yeah.
We could not get Israeli chocolate when we were shopping at the grocery store.
Yeah.
I'm seeing that the consistency is like that and it comes out of a tub. What would you think about like melting like a Hershey's chocolate bar, not so it's like completely melted, but just so that it's spreadable and using that instead?
A bunch of recipes, you make your own chocolate filling by melting it. They make Hershey's chocolate spread in a tub that you can get. I didn't see it at Publix last time I was there when I was looking for the Israeli chocolate, but I ended up with Nutella. But I'm sure that if you look up a babka recipe, actually I may have one. This one is cocoa powder, powdered sugar, dark chocolate, and butter, and you mix it together, warmed and mixed together. And I can send this one out in the chat or the email as well if you would like to make your own filling for it.
Have you ever tried the Biscoff spreadable?
I have not. I do like cookie butter speculoos, and I've been tempted to try one of those, but I bet it would be good. So I'm adding chocolate chips just to the top. You can add nuts. I also like to use a specialty chocolate called Valrhona, which I have to show you. They make these crunchy pearls. Grab it. I had to order it, but it's Valrhona dark chocolate crunchy pearls, and it adds just like a little bit of extra cookie crunch to the rugelach. It's a little bit pricey, but if you're making it for a special occasion, always a fun thing to add in. So once you have your filling, chocolate chips, Valrhona, nuts, whatever you decide to do, it's time to roll it. So you're gonna roll it like a hot dog, push your hot dog all the way up. May get chocolate everywhere, that's okay. Then you're gonna take a sharp knife and you're gonna cut all the way down the hot dog. Making sure you cut all the way through, because you got a few layers of dough there. And then you're gonna turn it to face up. And that's where you get your layers. And all you're gonna do is you're gonna braid it. Take the ends and cross over each other. Again, I really like baking these things because they don't have to look perfect. You can just slap it together, put it in, it still tastes great. Grab a pan. You can use any baking oil, cooking spray. You can use butter to coat the pan. I'm just using baking spray, it's easy. Going to just scoop it up, plop it in, and then you're going to stick it in your warm spot again to rise for another hour. So I have one that's been rising. I'll show you what it looks like, and then I'm going to pop it into the oven so you can see what it looks like when it comes out all cooked. Here's the one that's been rising. It won't double in size, but it'll start to fill the pan on the outside. I know some people will coat theirs with an egg wash. Some recipes have like a little glaze that you can make on top. I leave it plain, but it's personal preference, whatever you'd like to do. It goes, after it's been sitting for an hour, it goes in the oven on 350 for 40 minutes. And to check when it's in, you can use a toothpick or a fork, just put it in the middle. If it comes out clean, it's good to go. I also like to use the steam bake function, but since I moved out of my parents' house, I don't have a steam bake function on my oven. So I do the old fashioned way. I take a crock, I fill it up with water, and I stick it in there, and it keeps the oven moist. It'll keep the cake or cookies or whatever you're making moist. Keep it humid in there. You can add that in. And I'm going to set a timer because I will forget. Okay, 40 minutes.
Meredith, it's Cece. I've never used that steam function. Do you do that with other baked goods, with most of your baked goods?
I do. Usually, if you press a steam bake, it'll give you options for what you're cooking. And the option on my parents' oven is dessert. So I always do that. And you also take a, sometimes there's a pan, or you can take a crock, fill it up with water, and you add it to it.
Good to know. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to check to see if our rugelach dough is slightly chilled. Are there any other questions before I do that? I know I'm going through it a little quick. Is there anybody that's baking along? Am I going too fast for you if you are?
I'm keeping up more or less.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna check the dough and then we'll see. I would probably leave it in a little bit longer, but I think it'll be fine just for the demonstration. I like to do, on the top of it, I like to do the egg wash and the turbinado sugar, which is just sugar in the raw. This is what the package that I buy looks like. And I put it into a bowl to make it easy to sprinkle on top. I'm gonna put that aside for now. Again, you're gonna take an offset spatula or spoon, whatever you have handy. You are going to.
Meredith?
Yes.
Hey, this is Linda Block. We can't see what you're doing right now. We could earlier. We can see you, but not the counter.
Give us 1 second. We'll see if we can figure it out.
Like it needs to be tilted back down. It was good before.
Are you able to see it now?
That's great. Perfect. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. So the same thing, you're just going to spread your filling on. To grab another cup of chocolate. Okay, chocolate's on. Going to grab another bag of chocolate chips. Okay, with the circle, you're going to cut a pie shape using your sharp knife. So I hid from myself. Here it is. You're going to cut on the middle. And again, you can cut as small pie shapes as you want, triangles as large as you want, small. It'll all just factor in how big your rugelach are. I'm gonna cut it on the diagonal too. I think that will be perfect. And what you're going to do is you're going to roll from the largest side in. So once I get this first one done, you should be able to see better, but you're going to roll from the biggest all the way up around. And you want to make sure that this point here is squish it in a little bit and face it down onto the pan so it doesn't open up in the oven. And you're going to do it again. You're going to roll from the largest side all the way up. And the last one. All the way up. I'm just going to grab a pan with parchment paper to move these over to. They don't rise. They get like a little bit bigger, but they don't rise enough to bleed into another one like a cookie would. So you can put them close together. Probably like that is good. You can add the other ones onto the cookie sheet too when we're done. Now, we're gonna do the same thing with the rectangle. I'm gonna spread our chocolate on, our chocolate chips. Okay.
Meredith,
Yes.
writing and didn't see how you placed down the crescents. Were they with the tips down so that when they bake, it doesn't open?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And you're going to do something similar with the rectangle I'm going to show you. So same as the babka, you're going to roll it kosher hot dog style all the way up. And you're just going to press it down a little bit so the crease, I don't know if you can see it, maybe easier here. The crease here is facing down, just so they don't open in the oven. Now, This is the easy, quick way, so you don't have to roll each one individually. You roll the rectangle all the way up, and then you will cut in triangles. And back and forth. So the crease is on the bottom, so they won't open. And I still bake the little ends even if they don't have a lot in them, because that's my little taste test reward at the end for baking. So now that we have those done, we can add them to the pan. Great. There's the pan all filled up. Now I'm just going to move things out of the way. I'm going to put the pan here and I will top them. The egg wash and the sugar. So again, the egg wash is 1 egg, 2 egg yolks added to that, and then a pinch of salt. Grab my salt. And I use a little brush. And all you have to do is put a little bit on each top, on the top of each one. And the egg wash will stay good in the fridge for 24 to 48 hours. So if you are baking a lot or you want to prep it the day before or the morning of, it'll stay good. I just put a cover on my measuring cup to keep it fresh. You can top it with cinnamon sugar. You can leave them plain with just egg wash. Okay, I think I got them all. And I'm just going to sprinkle it with the turbinado sugar. Alrighty, and they are ready to go in the oven. I'm going to move the babka down so we can put the rugelach on the top, or the middle if you have the option. If you're just cooking one of them, put it in the middle. And these, watch the bottom of them. I find that every oven I cook in cooks them a little bit different, but 8 to 10 minutes. Check them, rotate the pan, put them in for another 8 to 10 minutes. I'll show you what the bottoms look like when they're done. They'll just be lightly brown. So now they're both in the oven. I'll check my timer to see. We have about 27 minutes left on the babka. Let me put a timer on for the rugelach. I'm going to put 8 minutes on, and we will check them. Perfect. Any questions?
Meredith, are you using convection oven or just regular oven?
I'm using just regular.
Meredith, my arugula ended up very large because I didn't roll it out thin. I thought I did. One end was thin. How long should I, like, do you have suggestion for how long I should bake it? Because I don't think it's going to cook in the regular time.
I would still put them in for 8 to 10 minutes rotate them, and after the next 8 to 10 minutes, check the bottom of them.
Okay.
They will be soft, like a little crunch on the top because of the egg wash, but they still should be soft once you break into them. You can always cut one in to see if the inside is cooked all the way through. But usually once the bottom of it is lightly brown, they're done.
Okay, great.
So does the rugelach recipe make like 16 to 24? Is that about how many it makes?
It all depends on if you do the rectangle versus the triangle versus the rectangle versus circle, and then how big you make them. So if you make them very large, I got maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I got 17 in the oven, and I still have a little bit of dough left, so I could probably make 5 or 6 more, so 20 something. And those were fairly large for me. When I make small ones, I usually get about 30 or so. The ones that I'm making now are much bigger. They're probably double the size of the ones that were in the box. But it's all preference on how big you want to make them.
Okay, thank you.
When I'm making them for like a party, or when I'm making them for my family, because I know they go very quickly, I usually make 2 batches of them, and then I hoard like a little box for myself. The other fillings that I put on the recipe, there was a nut and a fruit filling. You can do cinnamon and sugar on the inside. You can do jam and jelly. I have been tempted to do like a boursin, like an herby cheese, and make a savory one. I haven't done it yet, but that's the next thing on the list. It's really, as long as the filling is cooked, the dough will cook the same. You can put anything in the inside that you want.
Have you ever tried using a pizza cutter to cut the dough instead of?
Sure, yeah, makes it easy.
Seems like it.
You can even take, instead of using a knife to score all the way around the circle, you can take your bowl and just push down hard. Be careful with plastic though, because I did crack a plastic bowl once doing that, but something hard like glass or stainless steel should be fine.
And so the dough is okay to sit out at room temperature while you're waiting in between batches?
Yeah, what I would typically do is roll all of them out, put them all in the fridge, and then I would just run a few pans at a time. But in order just to show you the quick revised version, the circle and the rectangle, I just did one of each. But usually I roll it all out, so there's nothing left in my mixing bowl, and then put it right onto the pan. But you can take, before it's rolled out, you can roll it up into a ball, wrap it in plastic wrap, and you can keep it in the fridge for a couple days before you decide to roll it out and fill it. So if you want to prepare it ahead of time, you can do that. Got about 4 minutes left, and I'll show you what the pan looks like when they're half cooked.
I'm excited about making a babka. I was so scared of trying. It looks so complicated, but
That's what, so this all kind of started during the pandemic. At the very beginning of the pandemic, I moved back home, and my mom makes mandel bread, which I'm sure if you've been to an oneg, you've had. And I just looked at her and I was like, we always buy a babka, and rugelach are hard to get down here, and they don't taste the same as New York. And so I was like, why don't we just try to make one? My mom was the same way. I'm a little scared. I don't want to mess it up. But, it really does take trial and error. Try a few different recipes, figure out what you like, what recipe works for you. The breads one you have to leave it to rise for 24 hours, which is not convenient for most of us. Breads Bakery is a bakery in New York, and they make a fabulous babka. But 24 hours to wait for it to rise is not very convenient when you want to eat a babka now. And the black and whites too. I tried a few black and white recipes and they weren't cakey and fluffy. My family likes a cakey and fluffy black and white. And so I had to go on a Facebook page and ask to find out who had a fluffy, cakey black and white recipe. And I found one and it worked. And now the icings I've taken from other people's recipes and paired together to make sure that they're right and they taste the way that I want to. And it's all trial and error to figure out what works best and what works with your taste buds.
I just watched the episode of Great British Baking Show where everybody like failed at babka because they didn't know what it was. So I was super excited that we were doing this today because I couldn't, like, I read the recipe and I couldn't figure out how to manipulate it, but it's so easy.
Yes,
when you do it.
And you can Google how to, if you forget how to do it. I know that my instructions in rolling it was really fast, and we're going to make a recording of this so you can go back and look at it. You can always Google how to do it. I have a great cookbook I'm going to grab. It's called Julish Cookbook. It has some really great recipes in it, but they make a very simple babka recipe, and they also show you exactly how to do it. So there's good instructions. I know just typing it out, you don't get the full experience of how to actually roll it together. So that was the hardest part for me. So that's why I decided to show you guys how to do it.
Will you show the cover again?
Sure.
Meredith,
Yes.
do you by any chance know what Zabar's does to make theirs so fudgy?
So I was just looking up how to make an ooey gooey babka because the recipe that I use is a little bit more. I'm gonna be back to the Zabar's ooey gooey in a second. I'm gonna check the rugla. They don't look ready yet, so I'm just gonna rotate the pan and put them in for another 8 minutes. Perfect. The recipe that I use is a little bit like more like bread. It's a little drier than like an ooey gooey Zabar's. I don't know if Zabar's has. I'm gonna look. Don't know if Zabar's has posted their recipe, like Bread's Bakery has. But I would assume that the dough is a little bit more dense. Maybe more butter. I'm not exactly sure what Zabar's does, but oh, let's see. No, that's to buy one, which I would like to do. It looks like they have some of their recipes on the Zabar's website. So I'll have to search later to see if I can find the babka. But also the filling. So if you put more of the chocolate, then you get more of an ooey gooey inside. I did just try a new one. The dough is sitting in a bowl right now. So I will let you know if this one comes out more ooey gooey than the one you guys got samples of.
Zabar's was my first job after college.
Was it?
I worked there for 2 years.
Oh.
I don't know the secret of their babka though, sorry.
If I could get a job there just to learn it, I would. Let's check the timer for the babka. About 17 minutes left on that. About 6 minutes left on the rugelach. So I'll get to show you the rugelach done, and I can send out pictures of the babka unless you guys want to wait. If you have any other questions, I can answer those. Let me see if I can find the bialy babka recipe and show you that. So if anybody wanted the black and white recipe, it's a blog called West of the Loop. And then the bialy babka, I believe, is Smitten Kitchen. But the Nosher is a great place to find recipes if you want to try something new or try one of the recipes that I've made, but in a different way. I'm trying to think of some other good food, Jewish food blogs. The Nosher is my go-to usually. Jamie Geller is good. Paula Scheuer is good. The Facebook page that I asked about the black and whites, Paula Scheuer has a Facebook page called The Kosher Baker, and people post all types of recipes. People bring recipes and ask how to make it parov, you know, what people use for substitutions. It's a great place to find alternatives, find new recipes, to ask questions, to show off what you've baked. Sometimes she replies, she'll post things, new ideas, new recipes.
Meredith, maybe after this, we can jot down all the different blogs that you recommended and send it out to everyone.
Absolutely. I'm just gonna check the bottom of these. Grab a spatula. Not done yet, I need a few more minutes. And the babka that we made together is starting to fill up the pan. So that's pretty much how it should look before you put it in the oven. Just filled out to each of the sides. And it'll rise more in the oven.
Well, I'm also so glad it's very easy looking. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
No problem. Yes, the rugelach are, I mean, it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It's your own adventure kind of food. You can fill it with whatever you want. That's why I enjoy making it. And you can make a lot of them. They always taste good. They always come out good. You just have to find cream cheese, which, believe it or not, there's a cream cheese shortage.
Oh. Well, it reminds me of, I make at Passover, make the Hamantaschen all the time, and that has some cream cheese. And that's a little trick to that too, to get it to stick without puffing open.
Yeah, right, right. Those are harder because you can't just roll it on the side that it's pinched together. And
Yeah, somehow, the dough can't be too risy, or just everything falls open. That's a trickier one.
Rugelach freeze well?
I've never frozen them after they've been baked, but I'm sure you could freeze them and defrost them just to room temperature. I wouldn't put them back in the oven.
Okay.
Well, the ones you made were delicious, so thank you very much.
The babka, my dad likes to put in the microwave for 15 seconds, 15 to 20 seconds to just get a little bit of warm. I would suggest that. I haven't put the rugelach in the microwave just to warm them up, but I'm sure you could do it like that too. Got about 1 more minute left. We'll check the bottom of the rugelach to see if they're done. And we'll check on the babka too. I think the babka has a little bit more time though. All right, I'm gonna check the bottom. Let's see if they are starting to brown. So if you wanna just take a look here, they're starting to brown on the edges, but they're not totally brown yet. So I'm gonna leave them in for just another minute or so, and then they should be ready to go. Then I like to let them rest on the countertop for about a minute or two, and then I transfer them over to a wired rack, just like this. You can also move them to just a cool pan or a cool plate, just so they get airflow from the bottom so that they don't overcook on the bottom.
Meredith, when you filled the rugelach, you put the chocolate chips in it. Will that texture stay when you cook it? So you could, okay.
Yep, you still have the chocolate chips. And if you use the Valrhona in either the babka or the rugelach, the Valrhona will also, the outside of the Valrhona will melt because the outside is like a coated chocolate, but the inside is crunchy like a Rice Krispie kind of, or there's a candy bar that has like the crunchies and kind of like a Nestle Crunch. And so that will stay. So when you crunch into it, it's not overwhelming, but you get a little extra texture to it, which is always nice. All right. Let's check them one more time. They should be ready. Out. Yeah, they're starting to get a little brown on the bottom. One's in the back too. I'll pull it out so you can see better at the bottom. And babka has a little bit more time on it, but it's starting to fill up a pan and it's starting to get a little toasty just on the corners. As you can see, you want it to be a little toasty on the whole thing. The bottom. Good. I don't know if you can see there, the bottom of it is still just a little toasty brown, and they're soft now, but once they cool, they'll become a little harder. They'll be easier to move around and to pick up. Those are done. I'm gonna let them sit there for a minute, and then I'll move them to the wired rack. All right, there is about 8 minutes left on the babka, so if there's any more questions or stories, if anybody's baking along, how is your rugelach coming along?
Mine are looking pretty raw.
Okay.
But I just put them back in for another 8 minutes, so.
Okay, just keep
Like
an
I
eye
turned
on
them.
them. Yeah, just keep an eye on them. I always set a timer because I forget and I will let things get a little too toasty.
Yeah.
I've made as my mom calls them, a few waffle cakes in my day. Waffle pancake mix in the waffle maker, which you'd think would be the same, but it's not. But put a little bit too much oil in some cakes and they become very flat. I follow a recipe to a T, and I always set a timer. Other things that I've baked during the start of COVID, I made bagels. Came out great. They were really easy, and I let everybody in the family top them with what topping they wanted. We did poppies and everything bagel, and we made bialys. They're a little bit harder, but still good. I love a bialy. Made a lot of challah with za'atar seasoning on the top. Ina Garten makes, I follow her challah recipe. It comes out like 3 times bigger than the size of your head. It's ginormous, her challah, and it has saffron in it, which is just like a little added flavor. But you can make it without the saffron. It's delicious. It's in her Cooking for Jeffrey cookbook, or you can just Google it. It pops up online. And then you can take that challah and make challah French toast souffle right from that, which is another one of my favorites.
I made my favorite chicken recipe during the shutdown. It was an all-day job. I don't know how you would make that for breakfast. You'd have to get up at like 2 in the morning.
I made the pretzel recipe, and it came out really, really good. That was fun. We did like all different seasonings on top, just like the bagels. Made a lot of cookies. We got fresh strawberries in the spring, and there were a few good things and a few things that I put way too many strawberries in and it kind of fell apart, but it's all trial and error. Nothing's gonna come out perfect the first time, or the second, or the third. All right, I'm gonna move the Regaluff over to cool. And we have about 5 more minutes on the Babka, so I'll be able to show you that. All right. All righty, we have a minute left. I'm gonna pull out the Babka and see what it looks like. Perfect. So as you can see on the Babka, each of the little ridges has gotten a little brown on the top, exactly the way that you want it. Grab a toothpick so we can check it. And after the 40 minutes, if the toothpick comes out wet, I would just pop it back in for maybe 5 minutes or so. But keep an eye on it, put a timer on just to make sure it came out clean. So it is done. And same with the Babka. I usually let it sit in the pan for just a few minutes to cool down, and then I'll move it to a wired rack to cool. Let me see if I can cut into it. Here's what it looks like. Maybe we'll scoop it out early. Okay, I think I need to give it another minute. Maybe too soon. There we go. So if you let it just sit before you cut into it, you should have like a nice swirly pattern. I messed up with a little bit of chocolate, but cooked on the inside, then you can cut slices and you can enjoy.
So I have two questions. Do you
Sure.
serve babka as the loaf, or do you cut it and then serve it? I know you gave it to us cut, but if you're serving it in an event, do you serve it whole? Or you generally cut it?
I usually let it cool and then I'll stick it back into the loaf pan, and then you can cover the loaf pan to store it, keep it fresh. And I'll usually just put it on the table with a knife and people can cut their own slices.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question is, I'm intrigued by your cooking mitt. I'm stuck in like 30 years ago.
They're from Target.
Okay, and those are silicone?
They're silicone, yeah.
Okay.
They're easy, compact. And they come in a packet too, so you don't burn either of your hands while you take things out of the oven.
Well, it looks a lot more modern than what I use. Meredith, thank you. Everything looks just delicious. I'm excited. I'm ready for another episode.
Let me know what I can cook next. I'll start researching the Zabar's babka recipe. I see it's in the chat now. We'll see how it comes out.
I'm not sure that's actually a recipe. I think it's a short video.
Oh, okay.
I got all excited. I may have jumped the gun on posting the.
I'll do some research. I'll put together all of the little links and bakers and the Facebook page, Kosher Baker Facebook page, and send it to Cece so she can email it out to all of you. That way you have some resources when you're looking for a new recipe or you want to try a different babka or regular filling or dough.
This was
And
excellent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you, Paige.
everybody for coming and supporting the temple. And
Great job, Meredith. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have to go get my chocolate
thank you.
fix.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful. You did a great job. It's fun to watch.
thanks for coming.
Mine are
Thank
looking
you.
pretty good.
Thank
So
you so much. I really enjoyed it. I'm making the raspberry field, so I'm hoping they'll turn out good. Thank you.
Wonderful. Let me know how they come out once you cook them. And if you have any questions while you're cooking, feel free to email me or contact me. I'll help you out any way that I can.
Thanks.
Thanks.